Hello.
Hello. Hey, we didn't even practice that and that worked out. That was pretty awesome.
That
Okay.
was pretty awesome. I was almost going to go, hello.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like every time I want to say hello, it's got to be that Mrs. Doubtfire or hello,
Right.
like that kind of
Right,
thing.
exactly. Yeah.
Just completely over exaggerated and ridiculous. But hey, that was one of the best parts about that movie, just being overly ridiculous. But that's Robin Williams in a nutshell.
This is true. This is true.
How are you doing this week, brother? It is good to see you.
Oh, I'm good. I'm a little tired. I've had a long week, just work wise, but I'm hanging in there. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I felt that whole I've had a long work week Tuesday. I was
Yeah.
just like, damn, it's been a week. And I was like, crap, I still got 3 days. So it's good to be on Thursday because like this is like
Yeah.
again, the week always starts where like I start things start looking up Wednesdays. Wednesdays kind of get a little bit of that pre-show feel with Duchess doing the Wicked Wednesdays every week, and then that coming up tomorrow is going to be Toy Frenzy, so that's always great. And then we can roll into Friday, and I mean, I'm always a fan of trying to catch the show, but Let's Go Off Worlds, one of Sean's other projects that he does with Curtis and Jesse and all those guys, and the Dooch and it's like Legends of Grayskull extended, which is nice. So when I get to this part of the week, like no matter how the week has felt, it just starts to get better because I know that weekend's coming and everything will be awesome and kind of work itself out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Did you we just barely got our Christmas lights up yesterday. We normally we go a little earlier. Have you got anything like that?
We've got the interior of the house decorated, like throughout most of the rest of the house or anything like that. No exterior lights yet. And of course, we always get like a live tree, so we haven't got one of those yet because you wait a little bit closer to Christmas Day to get the live tree cut down and put up. So,
Oh yeah, for sure. And then you got to stick Moss Man in the tree, of course, right?
yeah, you got to hide them. Like, it's that whole like, find the pickle in the tree kind of thing. No, you find Mossy in the tree.
That
He's
is
always
right.
hanging out in there somewhere, but that's part of the fun of it. That's all part of the fun of it. And just put a little Santa hat on him. Oh, he'd be
Oh
adorable.
yeah, totally. I
I gotta
when I was gonna say when I got Moss Man for Christmas as a kid, I opened him up by the tree and couldn't tell that he had a smell because it was right under the tree. It's like laying
right.
under and playing with him. So it didn't occur to me to wait later. Oh, he's got like a pine smell.
I had this thought that the tree made him smell like that.
Oh,
That
really?
was my kid logic was the Christmas tree. The way he was sitting under the tree must have made him smell like that. It did not dawn on me at that age about that.
Yeah.
And the Stinkor figure I never got as a kid. I
Hmm.
did not get the Stinkor figure, and I think it's because my dad did not want my toys all stinking of patchouli. And I remember that was my dad's He-Man figure. It sat upstairs in his room until the house burned down. It was like the last unopened Masters of the Universe figure in the house.
Wow.
And it stayed up there until 1999 when the house went. So,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. But oh man, the funny part is I cannot get over how the vintage figures still carry a smell to this day.
Yeah.
And that
They-
new one just smells like slightly burnt plastic, like not good at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It was disappointing. It just smells like some of the cheaper plastics or like a
Yeah.
plastic bag or something.
Yeah, it's not that like, patchouli was like the worst smell in the world. It was just definitely heavy on that old figure,
Hmm.
but at least like it felt like he lived up to his name.
Right. Yeah.
Now he's just like he smells like freaking plastic. He's been sitting in a toy box full of other plastics, like that's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. For my vintage one, sometimes I'll just if you seal it up in like a Ziploc bag for like a week, and then you open it up, then you get it kind of builds up, and you get a kind of hit of the old smell.
You know what? That's a good point. I never thought of trying that. So that's yeah, like kind of builds up and like permeates in there. That's a good call. I
Yeah.
actually had even thought about like trying to get some patchouli and just dabbing. All right. Well, should we get involved and say hello to everybody in the chat?
Yeah. Let's do it.
And the only ask is because it's starting to get away from me. I've got like YouTube up on this side over here, so I can see where the live chat's going. I've got the other
Yep.
chat scrolled all the way to the beginning, so I can go in order here, and I'm just like watching it get further and further away. All right, so let's dive in here. First up this evening, we had Master Versal Toy Hunter Eldor himself, the only attorney in the audience. Thank you for being here, brother. Always good to have you. We've got Pop Actor hanging out saying 69 dudes. Ricky, what the hell are you talking about, 69 dudes? All right. We've got JMax77 here with us as well. Figuratively speaking, John, Eternity Lips, Sir Clifton here. Henri, you hanging out with us. Duchess of Darkness has made it here. Good to see you. We have Ronald Embry hanging out in the chat as always. Great to see you, brother. Always a pleasure. We have Ace hanging out. Glad they're late. Didn't miss anything. It's almost about the only thing you can guarantee is that we're going to go on late because I always get caught doing my hair right before the show.
Yep.
True story. Happens all the
I
time.
was doing my nails.
See, we gotta,
Yeah.
we gotta do makeup. We gotta get screen ready before we do this thing. I mean, we could just schedule it later,
Yeah.
but then, what fun would that be?
This doesn't just happen. This takes hours in the chair of preparation.
It's true. It's true. Absolutely. I get there. And we've got the man himself hanging out in the chat, pulling double duty on the screen. I love seeing that. And again, as I always like to say, we are officially a Toy Tube show now. We have Nolan here with us tonight. Good to see you, brother. Giving us the individual shout outs as well. Appreciate you, Nolan. Thank you. And K Roll here joining us. Good to see you, sis. Glad to have you. Keep scrolling down here. We got the in talking going on. Everybody starts won't see it because everybody knows we're late. They all roll in a little later. We got Allison Troy. Good to see you. And keeping it rolling. Joe Gonzalez in the house. What is up, brother? Thank you very much. And we'll talk about that on Saturday a little bit more. I appreciate you. And we've got Aaron Payne's toy samples here. Aaron is the man. Thank you, brother. Good to see you. And we're going to keep scrolling here. Gosh, I'm trying to catch up with everybody. So much in talking to. All right. Oh, that's what it is. See, I can't keep track because Skelly's not here to sell us. I can't believe we made it to episode 69.
I know, right?
I can't believe we're here. It had to be said. We had to do it.
Only last week it was episode 68. I don't know what happened.
How does that friggin' happen? I can't believe it. So I think that just about gets us all caught up today. Now, Adam, as we like to normally do, kind of go around the table here, even though it's just you and I, so it's a little bit just back and forth tonight. As everybody can see, it's just Adam and I hanging out tonight. Everybody else had better stuff to do. I don't know what's up with that. I mean, Skelly's all gallivanting around the nation's capital and stuff. If you guys have seen the pictures, Skeletor is seeing all the monuments, which is pretty epic. Bobby couldn't be here tonight. And then, unfortunately, Sean has been dealing with little minion is sick. Unfortunately, not feeling too good, so he could not join us tonight either. But certainly hope everybody is, staying well, keeping healthy, and in trying to enjoy themselves, through this holiday season, because it can get a little mad, a little crazy out there. But what's got you excited this week, Adam?
I got a couple things. Not new, nothing new, but I've been working on. I finally have been forcing myself to actually start doing some painting. So I'm working on my laser light Skeletor. I've almost got his feet painted with the metallic copper color.
Very
this is the
nice.
kit from
Now this is
Barbarossa.
the kit it from Barbossa's Customs.
Yep, that's right. I've had it for over a year, and I'm just finally
Yeah.
like, yeah, like let's put this together. So I got that. That's almost done on the legs. And the other is another project, which is Red, mini comic Beastman, which I've had like mostly done for over a year, maybe 2 years. I don't know. But the last thing was getting like the actual Beastman head. It had the Lords of Power head for a long time, which doesn't quite capture the mini comic look. You have to have that vintage toy Beastman to really get it. So finally finished that this week.
For sure.
So that's my stuff this week.
Looks phenomenal. Absolutely love seeing that. Love to see that original look of the figures, like the way that they were always like shown off and all the promos and stuff like that, and then
Yeah.
actually get that concept in hand. It's just nice. And that's, I think, one of the best parts about collecting this phenomenal toy line is, the way they've revisited those concepts over the year, and with the community that's out there, like being able to build all this cool stuff that we've kind of now found through things like He-Man.org, where some of the stuff may not have ever come to light without that great and amazing community. And so now being able to see it come to life in people's collections in one way or another, like that absolutely gorgeous Castle Grayskull behind you that just always steals the show. I mean,
Yeah, I've been having fun with that
best look.
this week. Yeah, yeah, I love that's just my favorite incarnation of Grayskull. And I did. It doesn't really look like much from this angle, but it's those. That's like a trifold presentation folder that I've turned into clouds, so it looks kind of like the cover of He-Man and the Power Sword, like the clouds that were behind the castle in that shot. So
It's a fantastic idea. I love doing stuff like that. When Connor was younger, um, everybody knows like extreme sets and all like that, how they got like those cardboard like Dio play set kind of things where it's actually like more like a play set, but it's all like this heavy duty cardboard. He had, well, I bought him one that was like a cityscape, and I bought it like that it was scaled down enough that it would work with like his Batman Imaginext figures. So like he had this really huge giant like Wayne Manor and Batcave, and then he had
yeah,
this cardboard Gotham City that all the villains were in. There's like this little sewer area, there's the streets, there's these warehouses and stuff that they could all go to. So like all the villains are all throughout Gotham City, and then he could play with um they're coming down from Wayne Manor and the Batmobile and everything, and they show up to the city. Imaginext is great for stuff like that. There's a
oh
lot
yeah,
of Masters of the Universe homages throughout the various, you know, Imaginext toy lines that they did. But one of the things that it did, because it was a cardboard play set, like, it likes to kind of fold back up on itself. It doesn't necessarily like to stay in the city image, but it's supposed to be able to fold back up so you could store it easier.
right.
Um, I went to the dollar store and bought this like giant sheet of heavy cardboard. I bought some little Velcro strips, and then they had like, those little, it's not like a wallpaper, but it's like the sheets that you put in the bottom of like your drawers and stuff like that.
Hmm.
They had one with like some like rocks or pebbles on it, and it looked kind of like cobblestone. So what I ended up doing was wrapping that around this giant cardboard thing, putting the Velcro tabs on the corners of the playset, and then putting the other pieces of the Velcro down on that cardboard so that like we could have it sit and kind of open up, and it gave like more of a play mat area for
Yeah,
the adventures to go on. Which was really great for all the different vehicles, like the motorcycles and the Batmobile, and the Joker had his motorcycles and stuff, so that they could continue to roll around because, it's in a living room. There's carpet on the floor and stuff like that. We didn't have any hardwood floors. So it was really good for him to be able to, have all of that. Now, since then, that thing did not hold up well through humidity, unfortunately. It was like ruined, but it was still really
Right.
cool. And he had a lot of
Yeah.
fun playing with it.
That's cool. That's awesome. My son was big into Imaginext when he was, like 4 or 5. Um,
Yeah, I mean, they were just fun. They were really cool. I remember he was watching this channel, Kev's Toy Review, on YouTube. And I was watching it with him, to be honest, because I thought it was pretty neat. He was showing off like they had just started doing the Power Rangers line, and it was like the old school Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So I was like, that is some really neat stuff. That is really cool. And so, like, naturally, like me being a big Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fan, I was like, well, let's go get him a whole bunch of Power Rangers and stuff like that. And that's what started the collection. And then we saw like
mm,
some other sets that kind of worked with it. And then, of course, as like he grew and he started to like Batman, since Batman was in the Imaginext line, we could do that. And then he got into like watching some of the Jurassic Park stuff with me. So then we did the Jurassic World ones, and that was pretty cool. They were just really, really fun sets to play with. And honestly, they were like, for a while, it seemed like they were the only ones doing like a worthwhile play set of any kind. So,
yeah, yeah. I know there was like this sort of Chinese looking set that used to shoot missiles and things from the it's kind of like an ancient Chinese castle or something. You like that one a lot.
mhm. Yeah, we definitely did one that was similar to that. They had a Batman one where it was like the Lazarus pits, which is just straight up the slime pit, just downscaled a little bit earlier. It looks a little more Asian inspired. And then it's got like a dragon head on it,
Yeah.
Chinese style dragon head on it. That was really, really awesome to see. Then they did the oh god, I bought a bunch because they were just fun. There was the command center. We did that. They
Hmm.
re-released one of their old wizard play sets, and that was Rita's Moon Base. So of course we had that. Now
Mm.
that one was really cool because underneath that is where the dungeon. Yep, that's the one. Hold that up.
Yeah. It's
Underneath.
yeah. I'm the actual cover I've got in another room. I'm trying to actually,
Okay.
because my son doesn't want this anymore. I'm trying to extricate the dungeon grate from it.
The okay. So if people are wondering what we're talking about, there is a very specific dungeon grate that goes over that piece that is sculpted from a very, very familiar castle that we're all in love with. And it's pretty cool. Like we said, there's tons of homages there. Now, we've got somebody here kind of crashing the party here. Uh,
Whoa!
what's going on with
What?
Hey!
It's Gramps.
He's made it. He's here. I can't believe he made it to episode 69.
How
I
did this
wouldn't miss it
happen?
for the world.
How's DC?
It is exhausting, but good.
Well,
It's a work related business trip, so I'm just like busy with all kinds of nonsense. But it's been awesome.
well,
Nice.
it's good to see you, brother. I'm glad you could join us tonight for a bit. I've been loving the pictures. Skeletor touring nation's capital here is a blast.
Hopefully, I'll get some more tomorrow.
That would be great, man. I totally cannot wait to see some more of it. And then, because you're so close, for those of you who don't realize, I'm only about an hour away
Woo!
from the nation's capital. Myself and Ziggy are going to be driving down. We're going to meet up with Skelly in DC, and we're just going to have a blast. Skelly managed to scout some stores kind of loosely using the Google machine, and we are going to
Loosely.
be trying to do some toy hunting in the nation's capital, which even I don't get down there to go toy hunting. So
Yeah, I mean, and really, there aren't a lot of places from what I've discovered. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited, Oz. It'll be our first time meeting in person.
it definitely will. And I'm absolutely, absolutely going to enjoy that. It's going to be phenomenal. We've been doing this for a little over a year now, and we'll actually get to meet. It doesn't always happen so frequently in this tour realm unless we're all meeting up at a place like a convention. That's about the only time we really ever cross paths with a lot of people. So this is a rare opportunity, and I'm going to take full advantage of it while you're here.
Yeah, I'm really stoked you were able to carve out some time and come hang with me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I would have, made it happen some way or another. I was trying to see if I get Mr. Home Arcade to tag along with us, but I think he might be a little bit busy that day. But
That's all right. Hey, you know what? I totally understand, and it's not like this is like a cool convention or anything, and so it's not like we get a chance to hang out longer than that. An afternoon, or I mean a morning, a morning will be, or a early day will be perfect, and we'll scout some places out, see what we can find.
grab some lunch, and then we'll make sure you make it safely back to the airport. We'll act as security for you the rest of the way there, because as Ricky has said here, the new U.S. president.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Skeletor.
Want to give a big shout out to the beautiful Dawn. Thank you
Dawn.
for joining us tonight. It is great to see you, gorgeous. Thank you.
And
So,
I've noticed some people chiming into the chat. I haven't got a chance to see what they're saying, but it's good to see you all here.
it's a little different and awkward from the phone, isn't it?
It is. I can't really see. I only see it when you pop it up. And
yeah, because then if you pull it up on the phone, you can't hit the back button, or you back out of the stream entirely. I've done it a couple of times by accident. It's weird that way, but
yeah, I can't figure it out. But that's all right.
So we were just talking about a little bit of the Imaginext and the fun that you can have with those, and how they have like some of the best play sets in modern toys. Period.
Yeah. Adam, what were you showing when I popped on? That looked really cool.
It was one of the play sets that I just happened to have this like randomly in my office when we brought it up, and I've got it only because the dungeon, there's the Castle Grayskull dungeon grate underneath it, which is the battery cover. The battery cover's in another room, so you can't see the whole thing. But yeah,
that's cool. Now that's Imaginext.
Yeah.
Whoa,
I think the original set. The original set was called like the Wizard's Tower or the Alchemist's Lab, something like that. Later, they reused it as Rita's Moon Base when they were doing the Power Rangers line. So it's a really fun, neat little play set. And like I said, it holds a big place in all Motu's hearts, Motu fans' hearts, for having that sculpted dungeon on there. So
yeah, that's very cool. I'm jealous.
It's a really fun playset. Well, we were just going over what we were excited about this week. Adam showed off a couple of figures. He's been getting down into his paints and all like that. Skelly, what are you excited about this week, brother?
It has been a crazy week, so let me think. Someone posted a picture of the NECA. Is it Raphael that's the creature from the Black Lagoon, or is it Michelangelo?
That one's Leo.
Oh, it's Leo. Yeah, that thing looks pretty amazing. If I see that in the stores, that might be hard for me to resist.
Yeah,
that guy looks pretty awesome. But I'll tell you what, last weekend when the family and I went out shopping, we stopped by Target, and I didn't see anything new. Although I ran across I did run across the creature from the Black Lagoon NECA figure there, the black and white version, which is cool, but I got the color version, which is awesome. But I'm not seeing any new Masters stuff out there, and I'm not sure when that stuff's supposed to hit the store, so I haven't really felt a level of excitement per se. So that's my long answer to a very short question.
it's a good answer though.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. if anything's really getting me super excited right now. I keep waiting. I want to see the cartoon Origins line in the stores, and then I want to see it and then decide if I want to get one or two of those figures, because seeing it in person is totally different than looking at images online, and definitely different from looking at people's videos. So I'm excited about that moment when I walk into the stores and I see those figures. But it's not. I guess it's not happening until like spring or something, right?
No, the
Oh.
cartoon stuff's supposed to be in stores now.
Oh, really?
Like those started rolling out November 1st, so they're just
Yeah,
following suit with how everything else has been lately.
I ain't seen anything.
Yeah.
Nope. I haven't seen, to this day, I still have yet to see any Masters Universe stuff in any of my Walmarts anymore.
Oh no, that
Which,
stuff that's gone. Like there's the one Walmart that I go to a lot. It still has Master stuff, but it has like a whole. If anybody wants a Moss Man, this one Walmart has like 10 Mossmans, 10 Mossmen, and
you've
a
heard it
bunch
here,
of.
folks. If anybody's still looking,
Yeah, I don't know anybody. We've said it before. I don't think anybody's looking anymore. But I
Yeah.
did. They do have a bunch of like Stratos and um, uh, Jitsu and bunch of those still.
Yeah. I was looking for Moss Man forever for a buddy of mine. I went to like 5 different Moss Man or not, my 5 different Walmarts in like a circle around where I live. Finally found one like a week ago, and but it's only that one. It's only one of those stores that actually stocks He-Man anymore.
Yeah.
They do have some new stuff too, or newish. Like they had Squeeze and Spikor and that wave.
Whoa,
well,
really? Yeah,
that's
I haven't seen.
impressive.
Yeah.
That I don't
Dude,
see.
I would love to find a Spikor out there.
Oh,
I would jump on that in a second, but I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen Squeeze or Spikor or anybody.
yeah. If I
The only place
see it
I
again,
found those
I'll
at,
pick it up.
Oh, thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
the only place I found that stuff at was, well, I mean, if any of you guys watch A Punk with Toys on his channel, he came through here not too long ago, and we stopped off showing him random treasures, and I managed to pick up Squeeze and the Snake Infiltrator. They also had Spikor and the Man at Arms. I just passed on them for the day though, because it was like, all right, I was getting these two, so just gonna go ahead and cruise one of those. So I'm gonna have to get back out there and see if maybe at some point they still have them. But right now, I'm going into full holiday drive because right before the holiday season had come in, well, after last weekend, I'm done spending on myself. Now it's all for other people. The thing I've been excited about was I've been waiting almost a whole year for this stuff, or at least since the beginning of this year. They did that big announcement about the retail exclusive versions, Father Christmas. So this year, he's in the green robes with the brown beard
That's cool.
and his different accessories that came with that. I finally have it again.
Nice.
I have
Beautiful.
the even cooler and better paint schemed version
The green.
of
Yeah.
all the green, purple, and orange with the headless horseman again. So, like I said, I couldn't imagine that they would take a figure that I already found as like the coolest freaking figure ever made and find a way to make it more appealing to me, and then they did. But then just this past weekend, right? It was like Friday. They made the announcement they were dropping another figure obscura this year, so that would make the third one this year. They're getting a little redonkulous with this, and it's taking a bit of the novelty out of the surprise figure obscura drop when we're getting 3 of them
Yeah.
Right.
a year. But probably again another one of the coolest looking figure obscuras, the Jacob Marley.
Dang, you
So
got it already?
Yeah.
That's incredible. That was
yeah,
just, I feel like that was just announced last week.
it was. Yeah, they well, when they do the figure obscuras, they're in stock, so they've already got them. There's no waiting on these. They have them ready to roll when they drop them. So when you
Oh.
order after that weekend, they start shipping them immediately on Monday. Now we have no idea to the rhyme or reason of how they go out because like got it like first thing in the morning last time for the Mask of the Red Death, and I didn't get it for like almost like a month later.
Mhm.
And then like this time around, similar situation, and he showed up just yesterday. Like he came.
That's incredible.
As a matter of fact, all of this showed up yesterday. Now, of course,
Wow.
the retail exclusive stuff I actually got through a retailer called Death by Collectibles. You can find them on Instagram. Jesse put me through to him when he heard I had to cancel mine. Just because it was like that was supposed to be next year's issue and it became this year's issue very quick. So I was like, nope, cancel. Can't put it out. It's not in the budget right now. Everything else. And so then it was like I was bummed out, because I wasn't going to get it. And then Jesse's like, reach out to this guy. He'll work with you. So we put together a bit of a payment plan. I was working with him. And Sven, thank you very much, brother, because without you, that wouldn't have happened. And Aaron, thank you for helping me out to secure this figure because, of course, they got a hit on an off pay week. And I'm like, but Aaron helped hook me up. So he's got that coming to him. But again, the Nate Barch artwork all over these gorgeous cases is just incredible. And as they did with Father Christmas last year, we got the Happy Holidays greeting card.
Nice.
And they've actually got little ghosts all throughout the card. Well, actually, all through the scenery, but the scenery is what's stretched over the box. And one of the really, really cool things about that is a lot of the ghosts and stuff that are painted on the card is actually tributes to different people involved with the Four Horsemen. Like in one of them, it's actually Jeremy Gerard's likeness is painted on there. And of course, he's their marketing manager. And then you get this awesome little book of the Christmas Carol. And it's got
cool.
all of yeah. They started doing like the little books with the Mask of the Red Death because it was a short story.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, with that amazing Nate Barch artwork, you have Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
So
to this day, that merman, you can kind of see which way. That way. There. So Nate Barch's merman is one of my favorite pieces of artwork. Let's see.
Yeah.
Right, that one.
Oh, that's yes.
Yeah, his artwork is just a whole different level and phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous.
Adam, your setup back there is looking real good, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. I've been working on it. I don't know. I've got that cloud diorama in the back of the castle.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try a few different things. Like I want like a night sky version to put behind it. So.
Ooh, that would be cool. I like that.
Yeah, that's great. Love it.
All right. So Ace was asking here about the new creature from the Black Lagoon thing. So NECA's doing the TMNT Universal Monster crossovers. And in the original TMNT line, Leonardo, I mean, they did the Turtles crossed over with different versions of the monsters. Like we already had the Leo Hunchback. Now we're having the Leo that was the creature from the Black Lagoon. And that thing just looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then also, Ace, there's the basic Universal Monsters figures from NECA, and so Creature from the Black Lagoon was just released. So both of those versions of the creature, I mean, I haven't seen the Leonardo one in person yet, but the one that the classic version of the creature figure that NECA put out is just astoundingly beautiful. He's just amazing. So get out there and find it, Ace.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
so Oz, how excited are you for the Skull Man from the Four Horsemen, the Warrior Beast guy?
I thought it was a joke when I first saw it because I was like, what do you, this is some, because you guys know there's a big customizing community behind the Mythic Legions and everything else. So when I first saw that posted earlier this week, I actually thought it was a joke because it was nothing from the official Four Horsemen site. And I was like, oh, it's really neat looking custom. That's cool. But then they were saying it was going to be an exclusive at ZoloCon. And I'm like, well, the Horsemen are at ZoloCon. And then it was like a minute or two later, there, boom, the post from the Four Horsemen showed up with them. And I was like, that is cool. I definitely think it's a great exclusive figure. Fortunately, I do know some people going to the convention. Now, that's not on my list of places I'm trying to go to next year. Not because I wouldn't want to go. I know ZoloCon's actually rather close. It's right up in PA. It's not too hard to get to. But my main goals for next year, since there's no PowerCon, is Joe Fest, and then of course actually making it to Legions Con. So ZoloCon kind of out on that matter, but I'm definitely going to try to pick up one of those customs because even again, without the rest of the parts, like people will tell you as you get into getting these figures, especially with the Mythic Legions and the pop and swap and everything, sometimes you start looking at certain figures for the parts that are available with them too. Now, if I get more than one, that would be great because then I could kind of do the thing that I'd like to do. But I mean, I definitely would still want to kind of keep one as the standard Skullman for what he means, the Warrior Beasts, you know, that knockoff He-Man line that Zolo owns. But I was looking at some of that armor, the white and the red just looks so Christmassy. I was like, I could make a full like legit barbarian Santa Claus with it. And I don't know if you guys popped into the chat at the time, but when we were going back and forth with that, and then Bud's got his whole head cannon of the Krampus, the undead fleeing Krampus and all like that, using a sleigh. It was crazy talk all that day about it, but I think it looks phenomenal. I like that they showed off two different kinds of head sculpts for it. So like one was like that more original Warrior Beast style, and then of course like the other ones that kind of more Mythic Legions style, you know, higher paint apps and stuff like that with it. But I think it looks really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I like I said, I don't have any. My son has a few Mythic Legions, but that's kind of been the appeal for me with Origins because you can like the Beastman guy. He's got like Masters of the WWE Bard from
Braun
Classics
Strowman.
armor. Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
LOP and regular Beastman parts. He's got a Marvel Legend feat. So put it all together.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
But
this
it
was
looked
what I showed off for this
Oh,
week.
that's beautiful.
right. It looks really, really good. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but if you guys follow Boojaboo, he's a customizer that does like a lot of
Oh
3D
yeah,
printed parts. He did he puts out like a lot of custom sets that you buy and then you put them onto your figure yourself. But he used like a Whiplash and a Lord of Power Beastman,
yeah,
and from the mini comic Masks of Power. Now, like, okay, so
yeah.
we're getting the we're getting the Filmation episode Masks of Power with the Filmation Skeletor figure, right? Well, even before that was announced, he was doing the ones for the mini comics where he made the heads so that you could pop them on and off, and then of course he does like his own custom feet and everything. But basically you take a Whiplash body, you pop the one green head on that, and you've got your, you know, amped up little demon creature after it puts on the mask. You put the
Yeah,
Lord of Power Beast Man, you pop the head on that, and it's this amped up version of that. And of course, you know, this set would not be complete with the little wimpy versions of like those demons before they transform too. But that was really, really cool. I like
Yeah,
seeing stuff like that.
he does great work. I have his mini comic Stratos feather necklace.
Mhm.
But I've been eyeing that Masks of Power because I love that comic and I love the Alcala little demons. All of his little creatures he created, I love.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I was a big fan of all those too. Oh, Skelly, make sure you get in touch with Ace here
All
because
right.
she's in need of one of them moss men.
Hey Ace, message me on Instagram to remind me, and I'll go this. Well, I won't go this weekend, but I'll go. Yeah, maybe Sunday. I can swing by there and have a look for you. Okay, just message me and remind me. I'd be happy to look for you. Jacob Marley has nice knockers. Come
Well,
on, Joe.
it's true. Like,
That was
so
good.
you see the door knocker on here, right? That is actually one of the accessories that comes with Jacob Marley. And then there's a version with the mouth open and him screaming. That is another accessory. So he comes with some nice knockers. It's
He
true.
does.
Like Young Frankenstein. What knockers?
I love that movie.
Me too.
Anytime we can reference that movie is a great time.
Yeah.
So I did want to give a shout out. I know we had All Music Fan jump in since we've been rolling through, and we've got
Hey,
Dorky Hippie 81. Gotta love a name
welcome.
like that.
Love it.
Now let's see here. There was another comment that I did want to bring up too that Ace had mentioned. Oh, if anyone out there is looking for parts, or big blow mode bootleg He-Man, found one in a shop by me. Now
What?
that is interesting. A
Uh-huh.
blow mold bootleg He-Man.
Is that the giant
Ace,
one?
can you send me a picture of that, please? It sounds
Right?
amazing.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a sucker for the old school blow
Yeah.
mold
Yeah.
Christmas decorations and stuff like that. I would really love to see that. That
Yeah.
would be incredible.
Yeah,
Is that like
Ace, that's
the Mexican one, like the Mexican
yeah.
jumbo
Gotta be.
figures? Is that what that
Yeah.
is?
It's
Yeah.
gotta be
It's
something
gotta
along
be.
those lines.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
else is making that kind of crap.
All right, Ace, that's your second assignment. Send me a photo of that.
Right? Oh man. And we'll definitely make sure we show it off to everybody next week because that is something that has to be shown.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, hey, speaking of He-Man, so I was at the Lincoln Memorial yesterday, taking a picture of Skeletor, looking at looking at Abe, and this guy walks up and he's like, first he said, "Is that Green Goblin?" And then he realized it was Skeletor, and I was like, "No, it's Skeletor." And he said, "Well, I'm He-Man." And I was like, I thought this guy was like, I was like, what are you talking about? But he said, but his name's He-Man, Himan. And I was like, oh, that's
Oh.
so
Gotta be kidding.
awesome. That's great.
What?
Yeah.
No friggin' way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I've seen that name before too. Yeah,
me
that's cool.
too. Hey, He-Man, it was great meeting you. If you're watching, yeah, thanks for that. That brought me a lot of joy. It was great to meet you yesterday.
Can't believe that. That's incredible. What a chance encounter
I know,
that
right?
He-Man would come across Skeletor
Right.
in DC of all
In the
places.
Lincoln Memorial.
Right? Yeah, right next to Honest Abe. Oh man. Battle
Very
for the
cool.
ages.
Yep.
Here was the other comment I wanted to bring up from Ace. Motu part swapping. Walmart online right now has a few of the WWE Motu figures on sale for less than $5.
Hey.
You guys are killing me, but I might have to check that out.
Yeah.
Just cause.
Yeah, that's awesome. If it's I wonder if it's the newest wave, because if you can get Mr. T for $5,
Right?
get 10 of them.
Yeah, if he's on there. Still never forget that's how we got our King T. The
That's
mascot of Toy Frenzy, King T.
That's right. That's right. Okay, good, great, Ace. Thank you. I look forward to seeing that.
Oh wait, I'm intrigued to hear what other bootlegs they got, because the bootlegs are like, I don't actively collect them, but I always enjoy seeing them because they're so weird. They're just so random and weird. I love the bootlegs for He-Man.
Oh, Ace, you got to do a walkthrough video of that store.
Right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's a Toy Frenzy assignment to Ace.
There we go.
Walkthrough video of that store.
It's what I love about the community around the Frenzied and around Toy Frenzy is just that it, you know, it's truly a community, and we all like seeing this weird, crazy stuff, you know, like, I mean, we all grew up with it, and being able to see it and then sharing it with one another within this community is one of the greatest parts, because you never know what you're going to find.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right. Well, Adam, what do you say? Is it time for a bit of that Battle Ram report?
Could it be?
Could it be? I know. So this is a bit of the Battle Ram blog. Uh-oh. Did we lose Adam for a second there?
Nope. Can you see me?
Yes. I can definitely see you. You're here. All right. So this is a bit of the bootleg Battle Ram report edition. This is Kelly. I messaged you like last minute. I was like, hey, do you got the picture we used for the Battle Ram report?
Not with me.
Well, I started to go into making one, and as I was doing it, Adam sent me bam. So we got it.
Oh, good. Nice.
We got
Great.
this.
We're just missing Bobby's amazing.
Okay, it was like the worst fade out ever. I'll figure out how to do this one day.
I feel like after that music, I should like burst through a wall and then give the report that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Bobby, if you're watching this again, I really missed your narration at the beginning of the Battle Ram report.
I agree. It's just not the same. It's not the same, but we miss you, brother.
Absolutely. All right, so the Battle Ram report this week is topical. It's thematic. It's based on kind of our theme for the rest of the discussion today. It's the evolution of just a few different weapons in the Masters of the Universe line. So we're starting out with a very early version of Man-at-Arms. I think a lot of people have seen this one by now. So where this guy comes from, this was before, or maybe really parallel with He-Man pitch. There was another line called Robin and Space Hoods. It was kind of like this Robin Hood and space medieval line that was pitched. And Mark did the art for that. Mark Taylor did the art for that, as well as the art for He-Man. And they were both being pitched at the same time. And this Robin and the Space Hoods line didn't go forward. But he opted to kind of take this figure he designed for that, which was actually going to be a villain. I think he was kind of like the enforcer for the bad guy in the series, like Sheriff of Nottingham kind of type of figure.
I could see that.
Yeah. But you can kind of see he's got this weapon that looks it's got like a halberd axe kind of head on it. So when Mark kind of redesigned this early on, that weapon kind of stayed, and you can see this is the next picture. Yeah, this is a draft that Alfredo Alcala did for the first mini comics, and you can see it looks more like Man-at-Arms there, but he's got that same weapon that early concept had. So for a while that was going to be Man-at-Arms' weapons, this rifle axe thing.
That's interesting proportions. I've never seen this illustration. The proportions are really interesting. Like Man-at-Arms back there looks really diminutive next to Skeletor.
He does, yeah.
Skeletor's technically behind him and off to the side as he's attacking him. Skeletor would be huge compared. Look, Man at Arms looks so tiny. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Even looking at Beastman, right? Like Beastman
Well,
looks
yeah,
kind of tiny. I mean, I'm used to Beastman looking like a big hulking,
yeah.
Kind of ginormous thing. So, like, he looks rather tiny in this shot.
It's very cool.
Can I just say Tila kicks ass with an axe?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Like forget the staff of Ka, forget her sword. Get that woman an axe.
Yeah,
100%.
definitely.
All right, move on to the next
Yeah,
one here.
move on to the next one. So, and then this kind of just shows where it started to evolve. So, obviously, he ended up with that club, and a lot of people have seen this too. But the early idea for that club was that it would have the detachable ball at the top, like a ball and chain, kind of whip it around and hit people, which we've sort of got in the new Eternia Man at Arms that came out. Although it's not like an actual chain, but
No.
at least pays homage to it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I like the fact that with this shot too, you get the name, that original name to it, like when they were still doing Man for everything, and so this was Arms Man.
Arms Man, yeah, you had Arms Man and Sea Man for Merman.
Yeah.
Beastman was Tree Man at one point.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Yeah, very basic names. So that's Man at Arms. We've got a few different weapons. This one is the Hornetroid from, what is it, Micronauts line.
Mm-hmm.
So where this comes in was in the early Castle Grayskull prototype. They didn't sculpt everything yet. They, like Mark Taylor, sculpted the castle, but they threw together just some parts they had on hand to make some of the accessories. And the cannon specifically that they used there for the on the turret was made from those parts that from the Hornetroid. So like the the thing on the landers and the gun on top, they just put them all together, repainted them. That's where that gun came from.
Yeah, you can see all those different parts there. It's really neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you can see, because those early comics were based on those prototypes, it shows up too. So you've got this kind of Hornetroid gun in the comic books.
Beautiful.
And then, of course, so the Hornetroid was kit bash, and this was actual when Mark went back. Okay, let's design the actual accessories. This is what he came up with, which always looks to me more Star Warsy. It looks like one of the could be mounted on the side of one of the ships on Star Wars.
Oh, definitely.
Looks like, it looks very similar to like the turbo laser turrets you saw on the Death Star in the first movie, firing at everybody.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But I love this overall like design, because this is what I grew up with. Although I gotta say, just that those small things with some of the original toys and all like that, that always kind of bug me. I never actually put this in the turret to Castle Grayskull because it never, you had nowhere to stand, you could not stand up there. And like, still, like, even then it was also dangerous to put them up there too, like your figure, because you only had one gripping hand.
Yep.
And then after that, like, your figure's falling on the floor. So more often than not, what I did with this was I put it in the base of Point Dread. Like Point Dread, is like its own turret thing, which is kind of funny because that comes around a full circle. Like the new Point Dread, you can actually put that little laser gun thing that it came with on the base of it as its own separate little like battle station now.
Yeah, which is kind of genius. But Point Dread needed something like that because otherwise it's just a cardboard computer and that's it.
Right. Yeah. All right, on to the next here.
Tila is another example. So you can see in the prototype, she's got this spear design, which she has in the comics too, and that's because originally she was more of the warrior, and then the goddess sorceress was more of the magical character, and then they kind of put them together. She had that spear for a while, and a lot of the early um, shots of the prototype, it retains the spear, um, and then of course in the toy they changed it to this what we call now the staff of Ka, though it wasn't really called
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, at the time it didn't have that name. It was just a
Yeah.
random snake staff.
Yep. And then we've got Triclops here. This is again focusing on his weapon. So that's his early concept sword that he came with, and it's subtly different in sculpt from the actual sword he came with, but it's also in color different as well.
Yeah.
Big difference in the color,
Yeah. And the prototype version is actually what the cross cell art is based on, and there's a few other subtle differences too in his armor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see that bottom part where the green is like more molded in at that point as opposed to like the separate piece.
Mm-hmm.
Triclops is still just a cool looking figure.
Yeah,
He is a cool figure. Yeah. Yeah, he's one of my favorites from Wave 2.
Very cool. And
that was it. I just thought I'd quickly go over, just since we're talking weapons today, those are some of the evolution of some of the weapons in these toys.
Right? Yeah, packing that holiday heat.
That's right.
Look, we've all been out there. We've all been part of the retail madness, and you feel like you got to go out shopping at every corner strapped, because you never know when somebody's going to jump you and steal your bags or whatever you're carrying. It doesn't even matter what's in them. People don't look. They just see you got stuff and they try to jump you and take it. Okay, maybe not everywhere, but I live in Baltimore, and that's a very real reality here. I mean, and Adam and I were talking a little bit earlier before the show about porch pirates is like, the new thing. Everybody running up and stealing all your packages off your porch as well. In those cases, you got to bring your holiday heat, right? You got to stay packing. And so the weapons of Eternia are very vast, very wide. You've got everything from laser cannons and blaster bolt. You've got crossbows that shoot whatever comes out of the heads of the horde crossbows. You've got swords, daggers, and mace and flails and everything. It's just, look, if there is anything you can use as a weapon, it's in Masters of the Universe somewhere, including a dragonfly, as we saw with Tongue Lash recently.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing is sacred. They will pick up whatever is around them and beat you to death with it in Eternia, because we know it's that post-apocalyptic Alcala world, not any of that safe-looking BS from later.
One of my favorite weapons from the original line is the pistol. The pistol
that everybody
with the
lost.
sort of the bulbous nose, with the four, or is it like four little fins on the front of it?
Yeah.
That pistol, as a kid, I was just fascinated by that.
That's the one with Cobra Khan and Zodak, right?
Zodak, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, that was neat. And Adam, you're the one that introduced me to the idea that that thing was supposed to be not just a gun, but a mace too. Like, I didn't realize
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does have sort of that, and it's never called out, but it does, seem to have sort of that dual. Yeah.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense too when you think about it, like that long, thin kind of barrel, and then it just balloons out at the end of it. For if you're holding it like this, it's a mace, and then if you pop it around the other way, it's a blaster. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I like this, but yeah, I had no idea that was its intention. But there was a lot of stuff like that, as growing up, I didn't quite realize about these toys at the time because it's young enough. I didn't realize it. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of guns, like a lot of edged weapons, but I did notice like one thing is it's always kind of struck me the 85 wave. There's a lot of all of a sudden it's a lot of shields. Like Two Bad's just got a shield, Cyclone just a shield,
Oh yeah.
Stinkor's got
Stinkor.
shield.
There's a few actual like Mossman's got a club and
Claw.
but all
Right.
yeah.
Did anybody else get depressed when their toy's only accessory was just a shield?
No, I didn't phase me at all. I just thought, cool. All right. Stinkor's got a shield.
I got a little bummed out, but for him, like I felt like it made more sense than for like Too Bad. And same thing with Cyclone because of his spinning feature and the way his arms spun around. Like almost pictured that, shield was like almost like a discus that he could just throw and like knock people out. Kind of like
Yeah.
Oddjob's hat.
Mhm.
And for Stinkor, it just made sense. Like, I'm gonna just sit behind this shield and stink up the place until you go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with Too Bad, I don't know. I feel like we got the full treatment with our Masterverse Too Bad figures, as far as like how I always felt like this ogreish looking villain should come with like this club and this axe and everything like that.
Yeah, Masterverse Too Bad is
Yeah.
spectacular figure.
Next level. Next level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically all the stuff from those concept arts. Like, hey, let's throw it in there. Give him everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel like he's always like the one that's get short shrift because he never had traditionally didn't have any weapons at all. Other
Right.
than if you count the little spiky thing on his wrist, which doesn't
Right.
I wouldn't count as a real weapon.
It's not even like real spikes, it's like studs. Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Knuckle dusters.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's kind of like what Joe Amato always hates about it is, the fact that he doesn't really have anything, he just kind of zips around. And I get it. I totally get it. But at the same point in time, he's still cool because he's got flight.
Yeah.
He was our first flying figure long before we had Buzz Off or anything else. And I know I definitely used to like my idea of my web store, like, wrapping him up in the cords. Web store was another weird one. Like, you got this spider looking figure, and they're like, yeah, we'll give him a laser rifle. That's cool. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
sure. All right, cool. Laser rifle. Fine.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I can dig with that because, he's climbing up the side of this building. Like, I think one of my favorite loadouts for a figure, though, had to always be Ninjor. Because you had so many options. Like when most other figures just came with like one accessory, He-Man was a bit of an exception because you always had, like with the original, you had the shield, you had the axe, you had the sword. Skeletor, you had the Havoc staff, you had the sword. And like other than that, though, there wasn't a whole lot of figures that came with more than one accessory. It was normally just kind of here's a neat accessory. And then we got Ninjor. And they're like, we're giving you soft goods vest. We're giving you a soft goods hood. Have this, bow. Have these nunchucks that are going to break on you in 2 seconds. And here's this, have Jitsu sword with it. It was just like, man, they really loaded this guy out. Like, he really is a ninja. Like, wow, this is amazing. He was very impressive to me as a kid because he just, again, it felt like this overwhelming amount of accessories compared to most figures within the line.
Yep.
Yeah. There's only a few, like, I don't know, like one of the most, it kind of depends. Like sometimes you like think about how did Mattel think of it? They probably thought of it as what are the extra pieces that are not a part of figure, like that's, parts count wise.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And if you think of it that way, like one of the most would be probably Real Blast, right? Because he's got all of these snap-in guns that go into, his wrists and his thighs and his chest, and you got the backpack with the extra fold out laser sight thing.
Yeah, he had an intense amount. Like Rio Blast, I'd probably have to say was one of those, because now as an adult, I think knowing a bit more about the business from, learning from different things, that Rio Blast probably had to be one of the most expensive characters to make, and like,
Yeah,
and from concept and engineering to make it work, to the tooling involved to make all those. Again, this is one figure. They're not going to reuse any of these parts on anything else the rest of this toy line. And, they're all just dropping it on this one guy. It was at a point where you were getting a lot of individual tooling. You weren't getting as much reuse. But the sheer amount of tooling that had to go into him was insane compared to most.
yeah,
He's a whole new figure.
Yeah, they went out. 86 in general was mostly new. A lot like Extendar, Multibot, Dragstore, Horde Trooper.
Right.
All of those were pretty unique. Which was kind of ironic, because to me that's also the worst wave, that 86 line, just because I feel like some of the character designs aren't as strong, other than I kind of like the Snake Men, but like the Extendar doesn't do a lot for me. The Dragstore is a little weaker, but they did try.
Extendar is another one of those
yeah.
shield guys too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's got the shield.
Well, my friends, I have a very early morning tomorrow, but I'm so glad I stopped in and participated in some of this tonight. And Oz, I'm really excited to see you on Saturday morning. And I'm definitely going to be breaking out the phone and filming some of those interactions, folks. So keep an eye out. But you guys, this is awesome. I am literally on the edge of falling asleep right now, and apologies, but I'm glad I was able to pop in.
Do you got 2 seconds to answer Ace's last question? She's wondering about YouTube censoring. I know you can set up for keywords. Do you have any keywords set up?
Wait, does anyone know if the chat here gets censored if you swear or say stuff that YouTube could consider offensive? Oh, I see. Yeah, if something YouTube has can measure it to see if it seems like it might be like a spam or a suspicious response. But I mean, I've seen some comments pop in that just made it through that seemed sort of weird. We've seen those, and you just sort of ignore them. But yeah, folks, I think pretty much all of our viewers on the Frenzy are pretty thoughtful about not. Hey, Sean, how are you?
Since I can't be dropping by this weekend, I figured I could do this at least. So
yeah, and that's funny because I'm about to fall asleep, so I'm heading out. But
that's what you get for laying in bed at Skelly.
I know. I just can't. It's been these past 3 days have been so long. I'm very sorry, but that's perfect, Sean. We couldn't have planned it better. I'll send you that Starbucks gift card.
You just can't spend it in your library, Sean, because only Skelly has the bougie library. I mean, Starbucks in his Barnes and Noble that he keeps stealing the books from and returning.
Our Target has a Starbucks.
Let me tell you something about the Starbucks in the library. It sounds bougie, but who puts a Starbucks in a library? Let me just ask you that question. That is the weirdest decision. And when they did that, I was like, what's happening to the world? This is the weirdest thing that's ever happened. Anyways, those are my thoughts on it. Think it's bougie or whatever, but I totally disagree with the choice to put a Starbucks in a library.
Telling you, it's Barnes and Noble. You're actually just stealing the books and managing to bring them back.
And I just work at Barnes and Noble. That's what I do. Anyways,
Nice,
gentlemen, you guys are great. And Sean, I'm sorry, I'll miss you on Saturday, but I'm glad I got to see your smiling face right now.
It's something at least, because the way this week turned pineapple on Monday for me, and it hasn't really gone right since. So it's like
I totally understand.
The best I can do today. So there you go.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, it's good to see you. And either I'll get out that way one of these days, or if you come back, it's flat out, I'm doing it no matter what, because
awesome.
This, like I said, this week's been nuts.
Wonderful.
How did you get that thumbs up to pop up when you did that?
Oh, that's weird. That's crazy. Look at that. It's happening.
Oh, let me see.
Does that work on mine?
Does this work?
Oh, is it only if you're on your phone?
Yes, it must be
I'm on my phone
feature.
But it's not a feature on my phone.
Wow, that's really cool.
It's his channel, that's why.
That's super bougie right there.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go have bougie dreams.
Thumbs up.
TTFN.
See you, Skelly.
Good one.
Good one, brother.
All right. How you doing, Sean?
Hello.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Hi, Joe. Hi, Duchess. Yeah, it's been a wacky week. My kid was sick the beginning of the week, and today was the first. Yesterday was the first day he was back at school. So it's like everything's backed up with my schedule now. So that is what it is. But I don't know. I got this guy to keep me company tonight, though.
Oh yeah,
you opened yours. Ooh,
nice.
Showed off a little.
And I absolutely love the alternate head on this guy.
It's the best.
that is way too much fun.
I was saying it on Saturday, and I love how they just, it's not just that he still has. They completely removed the sculpt of the tie. It's not just tied on or like, pulled back or whatever. Like, no, they removed it from the head sculpt with his jaw dropped. And oh man, I can't wait to crack mine open. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer to open mine. Doing some toy edging, but I just showed the epic haul earlier tonight of the amazing Figura Obscura collection that I have that just keeps growing. And it all started with this guy right here in the first place. So it's all his fault to begin with.
I'm like a virus. What can I say?
spreading it around like the herpes, and now I'm just a horse, so I'm giving it to everybody else. Eventually, we're gonna get Adam infected.
Maybe, I don't know. My son, I keep because my son has a little shelf in his room, and I keep admiring his little collection of Mythic Legions. So I don't know. I'm trying to resist though, because I don't need an extra addiction.
Right? Yeah. It is just that. It can be, but it's in the most delicious and best way at the same time, though. I'd rather be buying these than buying drugs. I'd rather be buying these than spending all the money on booze or something else like that. That's really going to destroy my life.
This is true.
I appreciate having these little pieces of plastic that just bring me joy. And when something is not bringing me joy anymore, I just stop with that. And then, find something else. And, honestly, it's funny. This time last year was just when I started getting into the Legions. And I was still very heavily all Motu Origins all the way, and I'm picking up these Masterverse here, and that was when a lot of the Masterverse started hitting clearance too, so I was picking up more and more Masterverse. But I gotta say, it's where I just finally was over the course of this year, it's been less and less joy from the Origins line. Meanwhile, the Legions and everything else is kind of like, well, these are looking a lot better, and they're fulfilling that feel, that joy that I used to get from pretty much exclusively like Masters of the Universe. And it's still like, to me, it's like, they're cousins. They're adjacent lines. So I don't feel like too bad that I'm not just all in on this. And I mean, Joe totally agrees. They're an addiction. It gets that way. It does get that way. And Mike's mentioning the price of action figures are about the same as the other stuff. Well,
I know.
I'll put it this way. Okay. I'll put it this way. I used to go through 2/5 of Jameson a night. And at that time, that was costing me at around $60. So you're not too far. And that was a night. We're not talking like a week. That was a night I was spending that kind of money on alcohol. And that's not including the beer that I used to drink too. It was mostly whiskey, but there's beer, and I'd go through 2/5 a day like it was nothing.
Man, now that you're spending it on figures, you've got them. They're not disappearing there. You got them.
That's right.
Yeah.
I spend that kind of money on the figure, and I have it, and it's still here. I haven't drank it and pissed it out. And you know what? It'll be here well after I'm here, because that plastic's going to hang around for a while.
Well, that's
That's right.
my wife and I have been trying to do, okay, what can we do to make our budget better and stuff financially? And my wife is the one out of the two of us that she would like, a mixed drink when she comes home and all that stuff. That's her way to unwind.
Sure.
And every time I see that, and every time she's like, can you go to the liquor store for me? And I'm like, oh, I hate going to the liquor store for her. I really do. I'm not into it, and it's not my thing, but I do it because, I'm trying to be nice about it. But every time I buy that for her, I'm just like, and she thinks that what I have downstairs is juvenile. Like, I can flip those things for like 3 times what they're worth in a couple years, and it's like they make money instead of you just doing that, and you're literally in the bathroom at the end of the night or in the beginning of the morning and stuff. I'm like, I don't get that personally, but she doesn't get my thing. I got to tell you real quick, the one thing I bought in the last couple weeks that got me really excited was Trevor Williams did the print of Atlas on top of the bear for the newest wave. And I haven't really gotten into toy photography. I appreciate toy photography, but I never bought any toy photography. But I'm like, that one says Mythic Legions. That's the whole deal to me right there. So I went on Etsy and I noticed he had like 7 prints left of this piece. So I'm like, I'm getting one. I'll do it. I'll splurge this time. So I get one. It came in today, and there's moments where I'm showing my wife my collection, or I'm showing her something that comes in, and I'm less and less afraid to show her because she's seeing what I see about it in a way lately, which I'm appreciating. I showed her that. And I'm like, so this came in today, and she looked at it, and the minute she saw it and it was a toy in a photo, she snarfed what she was drinking and had to leave the room. And I'm like, what? I think it's cool. She goes, I'm glad you do. Please don't buy more of those. And I'm like, okay, so you're cool with the toys, but if people take photos of the toys as art and you sell it to people, that's finally, I met the end of the internet in our conversation. It's like, this is the distinct end. If you take a photo of a toy, it's automatic. She's like, I can't take that seriously, but she can look at this and at least appreciate it for the artistry of the sculptor or whatever. I'm like, okay, now I know where my guidelines are with what I can share with her in that way. Because it was the weirdest thing to even let her in to even remotely understand what this stuff's about to me.
Yeah.
So, but it made me laugh, and I'm like, I'm thinking, God, I'm going to share that tomorrow night with the guys on Off-World too. And I'm just thinking Trevor sometimes shows up for that. And I'm like, I'm never going to live this down with this guy now. But
This is where she absolutely draws the line.
She draws the line of what you do, Trevor. You,
What have you done?
Trevor, you killed it. You killed it for me. I was getting some headway with this, and then that was it. All she wrote right there. So
this is so not true, Bobby. The show is definitely not better without you, brother. We miss you greatly. The Battle Ram report was way off without your narration. It was horrible. We really probably should have scrapped it from the start, sir. Oh man. But it was good. It was good content. It's just that without you to help.
We didn't have that energy at the start.
Nah, it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same at all. So we'll say this here, though, Sean, since we're talking about the weapons of Eternia, what do you got, man? What are some of your favorite weapons of Eternia that you really appreciate?
Let's see here.
It doesn't have to be a named thing. Just like name a character and be like the accessories that they come with. Like we've already talked a bit about Rio Blast, and with the Battle Ram report, we were talking about Triclops' sword and Tila's non-existent spear.
There's a couple of them. Like even though I know there's people out there that didn't necessarily like the way Classics handled certain things, I thought it was kind of cool to get different colored power swords like when we were kids, and like the blue power sword, and the one that I loved the most out of them was Wundar's, because when I saw that and it had the black hilt on it but the rest was silver, I was like, that's freaking metal. Like out of all of them, that one was the one where I'm like, I think I need Wundar now. And then I sold myself on it, and eventually I got him, and it's like that figure's freaking awesome to me because of that sword. It's more Frazetta to me than He-Man for some reason.
Right?
I
just
love
this more natural looking weapon, like something that you would think like you would see in a museum somewhere from like some Dark Ages battleground that they found somehow magically not rusted and with this black hilt and all. Yeah, absolutely.
There's I mean, as much as like the power sword is iconic for Masters, if you look at it, it is kind of a boring, it's gray. It's like, but then all of a sudden you have, here's a blue one, here's a gold one, here's, like a black handled one. And that was like, I didn't necessarily need it to be every version of the person who wielded it until Adam was born. That's their distinct version of it. I just thought it was cool. There'd be different ones. And it's got that, and I know it's been said on Scott Knightlick's channel, but the whole idea of like the Green Lantern color spectrum almost with the power sword, and having maybe those mean something to whoever has it, as in either the character or the collector who has it or whatever. Another one that I really thought was cool, and it's been going on since 2000X, was Tila getting a sword. I really love that snake sword that they started doing from 2000X, and I love that it's part of the Classics line, and it's also in Origins now and stuff. And I just think the design of that is so succinct to it's like it nods at the old with her snake pattern if you go with the old school, but then it's a sword. It's a great piece for her to have other than the staff that she uses and stuff. And it's like in 2000X she always used the staff, but I was like, it's kind of cool. She's got like multiple weapons now. She's like He-Man in a way. She's got the staff, she got the sword and the shield now, and so like those right off the top of my head are ones that I definitely appreciate. And I mean, in all honesty, even like the 2000X power sword grew on me over the years. Not as that's my definitive power sword, but I still like the idea of it being like an alternate sword of sorts. And to me, the best version of that is the one that came with King He-Man in Classics. because
Yeah.
the handle is like a bone handle and it's all wrapped up and everything. So it's like, here's a beat to shit version of the power sword, and he's still going out there and beating the hell out of people with this.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed the 2000X power sword? To me, like it dawned on me one day, like just the you know the the shapes that kind of go out from the sides. It reminds me like a more ornate version of the sword on the original Castle Grayskull flag. You know, the
Yes.
cross swords.
Mhm.
It's like yeah.
Always thought that it was kind of like something like that. Like that was intricate. That design of the hilt was intricate to channeling the power in a sort of
Mhm.
way. Because even when they went and they talked about when they were doing the 2000X version, right? And we all know, like, okay, so originally the concept was going to be that Skeletor's got the power sword, so he had those
Yeah.
two half swords, and then they had to have a new key to access the power. So it had to have this way to channel it. So they specifically designed it with like these forked kind of hilt and crossguard, so
Yep.
it could help channel that power through. And I liked the idea that there was also the different configurations could unlock new depths to the power based off of what adversarial type they were up. Because again,
Right.
Sheer Sword was always like the answer to whatever it was, you know, for the honor of
Yeah.
Grayskull.
Oh
She
yeah. There you go.
there they
Yeah.
are. Which I always wanted these in vintage. And I guess now
Yeah.
kind of got them with how the Origins power sword is. It's, you know, got that similar look. Similar.
That, and then
Yeah.
there's the Tila sword,
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
and
And that is a
then
good one.
here's that Beat the Hell 2000X power
Yeah,
sword
that's
from
cool.
King He-Man with
I like that they had to repair it.
repaired. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like on Eternia, electrical tape or Gorilla tape is still a thing, apparently, because it's all black
Yeah.
around here from it being wrapped up in some kind of a tape. And
You know,
Yeah.
Man at Arms.
Yeah.
He's got to fix it somehow, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but like,
But
and that would be another one. So thank you for bringing that up. These are two more. It's like you don't really think of those because they were on the flag.
Yeah, right. We
But,
never had a representation of them.
and it's like I was one of those people that once I got into classics, I did get a couple of those like Castle Grayskull Man or King He-Man and stuff. And eventually I'd look at them on the shelf and go, these mean nothing to me other than the fact that their weapons are cool. So I ended up selling them off, and I ended up just buying the weapon by itself and putting that in the collection and saying, I'm good.
yeah.
I don't need these other figures that they aren't really doing much for me, but I love that, you know, like I could have a version of Skeletor holding the evil side of the flag and then the good side of the flag for He-Man if I wanted to or whatever.
Right.
I wanted to display it that way. So
Yeah. The so this is what I've heard. I don't know this for sure, but like the original Power Sword design, the reason why it's got these sort of shapes on the edges is basically because it was supposed to be a key, so you would, this is where you hold it if you're turning it like a key, even though that didn't
Right.
end up being what they did on the playset, but that's why those sort of shapes are
Right.
there. Right.
Yeah, because it looked like, the grip where the hand went to hold it anyway, with the little guard that came down to protect their hands, or in the
Mhm.
original case, to hold it in their hands. And yeah, it just makes sense that was for the grip. And it makes sense with the idea of the play pattern that they were going for. It just didn't end up translating that way into the engineering.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still think it was really, like, I still just love that concept, though. Like, you need to have both halves to access the secrets to Grayskull. And I appreciate that because, with the toy form, because we never had an Eternos Palace, this always defaulted to the good guy base. Snake Mountain was the bad guy base. But I kind of like to think of them more as seats of power. Like, either one can be coveted and somebody wanting to have both, right? Like Snake Mountain, and if you kind of think about it like our headcanon, as we were talking about previously, can kind of evolve, right? This kind of came to me the other day. So, like, okay, the sorceress, right? She's very bird, very hawk-like and everything in hers. Well, look what we got sitting up on top of Castle Grayskull here with Point Dread, right? And then you got Snake Mountain. And then you got the spire with the snake wrapped around it and that very snake-like. And then if we go back to a lot of the imagery from Revelations, where there was like these almost dream sequences of Zor battling whatever they wanted to call this snake. I know in 2000X it had a name. Oh God, what was the name of it in 2000X? Serpos.
Serpos, yeah.
Yeah. So like, it almost thinks like this is the Castle Grayskull with its bird motif here kind of thing, is like a representation of the sorceress and Zor as, a hawk deity, and then you've got Serpos on Snake Mountain. Well, because quite literally in 2000X it was Snake Mountain. So, I mean, it's kind of neat, like to think of two different seats of power that, whoever could rule them both could ultimately be the master of the universe. But, it makes more sense since we don't have that third kind of play set for them to be like, okay, well, we battle over this one. This is just already the good guys kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, so for the one thing I've noticed sort of about if you look at the different waves of figures, like the 82 wave, like they did the first 4 figures, and if you look at the accessories they came with, it's like mathematical. So like He-Man and Skeletor, not just weapons but accessories, they both have 4 each. And so do Man-at-Arms. So I mean, like Man-at-Arms, like his club, his chest armor, his arm armor, his leg armor, 4 pieces.
Right.
Beastman's got 3 armor pieces and his whip. So all 4 of those early figures, 4 pieces. And then the later figures in that year, reduced, like they have maybe 1 or 2 accessories.
That's a good point. Yeah, like I didn't even think about that, but yeah, like when you're again putting into the idea, the more as we understand it more now, that tooling cost and that parts cost, that's a very good point that I didn't think of. I mean, I know we were talking about the idea of, more complicated tooling and everything like that, and then like there's some figures just coming with more accessories where other figures come with little to none. But calculating the armor, because almost every figure had some sort of detachable armor, again, until we got into those later releases where the armor was more part of the sculpted detail of it.
Right. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think of it like that, but you're right. Yeah, with all the added armor pieces, that's very valid.
Well, that was with classics in particular. That was one of those. I don't know. It made me feel like a kid at Christmas again to go. Okay, for instance, Scareglow. Yes, he had his halberd, I guess it's called, but then you also get the Grayskull key. And you get that tube, and I can't remember the name of it, but
Reliquary.
the tube with the chain.
Yeah.
Reliquary, yeah. So you get
Reliquary.
that with the chain to chain to him, and he can hold that. And it adds something to the character that it like, as kids, and I still remember with my mom, her going, evil ghost of Skeletor. Does that mean that Skeletor's ghost coming back to haunt He-Man? Which made that awesome. That was like the coolest thing when I was a kid. And then it's like, that makes him his own character to have just that little piece now and to have that be part of the deal. And another one that they did that with, I mean, they did it with Fisto technically. I mean, they did the 2000X and the regular, the vintage version.
Yeah, 2 looks in one.
The other one that I was impressed with, even though I'm not a huge fan of the character, was I love that Extendar got a lance. instead of
Mhm.
just having the shield in that
Yes.
version.
That's what
So
he
now
always
I'm like,
needed.
okay, he doesn't just grow and have a shield. It's like I'm the biggest thing on the field. Don't fight me, don't fight me. And he's like hiding behind a shield. No, he's got a lance
Mhm.
now. He can actually go out there and attack people, and it gives you that feeling of the versatility compared to like when we were kids. Yes, they worked with what they had, and I'm sure they were trying to keep costs down and everything, but it's those little things within the line as it grows and evolves that I appreciate. They're adding things to make characters have something that's theirs instead of reuse of things a lot of the time.
Yeah, yeah. And then speaking of 2000X, like so that was where they gave Merman, right, his trident, which is
Yeah.
kind of the classic,
Right.
any kind of sea warrior, they've got to have a trident.
Always a trident with Poseidon.
Yeah,
Right.
which again came into the classics line. For some reason, I feel like they should have done that for Origins too. But he's never gotten it. But
Not in Origins. We did get it with the Masterverse Revelations version. He came. It's
Mhm.
not even a trident. What do you call that? A bident? Because it's
Right,
two.
yeah,
But
and that
whatever. I mean,
one's
we did kind of get it.
yeah. But I do prefer the Four Horsemen design version, just because it looks like it's the same material as his sword. It's kind of got this
Yes.
bony quality to it.
Bony coral look to it, which is, to
Yeah,
me, it needs that look, like, because that's what
yeah,
distinguishes it as merman stuff, right? Like, because he can't have a regular sword or regular arms because he's underwater. That shit's gonna rust. I mean, then again, I
Mhm.
don't know how oxidization works on Eternia, but
Well, there is like I'd say if you look at the main figures in the first few waves, I'm sure there's people out there. I know Skelly likes Merman, but for my play, at least when I was a kid, Merman probably I played with the least, and Stratos for the good guys I played with the least. And it's like having that trident automatically lifted him in a class, in my opinion, seeing that and going, you can't really say much about this guy because now he's wielding that. And that gives you that vibe like he's ruling everything under the water now. It's like Aquaman. And depending who's Aquaman, you actually respect them
right?
too, because he's another one of those characters that, like I talked to Fish and doing this on the Super Friends, but then when you put Jason Momoa behind it, suddenly every woman in the world is thinking Fish smell sounds good to me. Like, I mean, what are you going to do about that? But I
Aquaman's
like
not
how
so
that
lame anymore.
exactly. And I do like again, it's a subtle little thing, but that accessory raised him at least a bar or two for me in the way I looked at that character.
yeah,
Right. And again, a lot of that focuses down to that look, right? In our heads, because of Greek mythology, because of Poseidon, we
Mm-hmm.
automatically associate a trident with a deity of the sea. Like, just it's automatic. So giving Merman that trident, it's exactly, this is a god. He's not this dopey kind of guy that talks to fish, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of how I
He
always thought, again, that sea creature look. I always like that aesthetic. I've talked about
mm-hmm.
that 1,000 times, but to me, like, Merman just didn't do much for me when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's definitely a lot higher ranking when you think of, again, like him commanding the armies of the ocean and what that means. Again, we all saw Aquaman with like the whales or the dolphins and the Super
Mm-hmm.
Friends. Then you come across like a late 90s comment where he's like, I got a fucking megalodon. What?
Mm-hmm.
And like I picture Merman riding up on Cthulhu, like, okay,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
you know?
And I mean, for lack of a better term, I mean, he really was like the Super Friends Aquaman on the Filmation show for me. I mean, literally, he would be like, and he'd be commanding stuff. Same with Beastman, but it's like there was something more versatile to Beastman for me. You could have Beastman being a character who's doing his own scheme when you're playing, and you might not even need Skeletor involved, and you could just have it be Beastman and Beast attacking the Masters that time. But then you could also have Beastman being under Skeletor in this new, whatever the MacGuffin of the week is that you want to play Skeletor going after, and then Beastman's one of the heavies he's got going, and so he's multi-use. Whereas it's like Merman for me, I was always like, I gotta have something where it's near the water, or it just doesn't make sense to pull him into this. And I didn't want to always play like I'm near the water every single time. That's how my OCD with my mind worked, at least as a kid. But
no, I definitely feel that. Now I see it more as a Merman is in charge of his own domain. And he stays out of it as long as you're not messing around or doing something that hurts his domain. That goes for either side. If Skeletor realizes it's better to have him alongside him than against him, but, if Skeletor were to mess around with things of the ocean, then Merman would be his enemy. And if He-Man were to do the same, then Merman would be He-Man's enemy. So, to me, it just makes more sense because he has that. Now, to me, he has that commanding presence, or at least that's how I feel about it. And, again, I wish we had a trident for him in Origins. That would be nice. And that brings us to Joe's here saying, so Jason Momoa needs to play Merman in a Motu movie. Why not? Right? Why not?
So one thing
I have an opinion one way or the other on that, to be honest. I guess it's the whole thing of, I'm sure women would love to show up and see him no matter what he does. So yeah. But sorry, Adam, I didn't mean to step on you.
Oh no, it's fine. So one thing we don't see a lot of, I have a few examples in front of me, is like weathered weapons, right? So like if you look at Demo Man, he's got all kinds of scratches and rust effects on his sword, and also on his chain spike weapon here. I kind of wish they would have, like, any line would just kind of give us figures like that. You do get that occasionally in Masterverse, like He-Man's axe here. It's got some chips in it and things like that, although there's no paint effect.
No paint to it because it's a 40th, but it's one of those things where we don't get many detail. Like, sometimes the sculpting on the figures is completely detailed, and then there's just no paint app to bring it out. Other times it's like everything looks very pristine. But like on Ram Man's axe, right? Like, it's got it in there.
That's true.
But there's no paint to pull it out or like to highlight it. But it's got like that line going down the front of his axe and everything like that. So it all really depends. And like, Merman's sword doesn't work if you don't have that little plastic hanging around it. But the truth is, like, Merman's sword isn't that plastic portion of it that goes around it. It's like all the individual, like, bony knobs of the coral that are coming off of it. So depending on how it's molded, you don't get to see that a lot with Origins. You definitely get it with Masterverse a bit more. And you 100% got it when the Four Horsemen were sculpting all those amazing classics. But I agree. Where's the rusty, worn weapons of Eternia? They're all in immaculate shape, and that just does not make sense to me. Because I mean, maybe Man-at-Arms is just that busy polishing, oiling, and doing all of that. Like, anybody who has like actual weapons knows there's, even if you're not using it, there is routine maintenance to upkeeping even bladed weapons. You got to keep the edge, you got to keep it honed and oiled.
Well, what gets me, like, Man-at-Arms he's like a one-man army in classics. He has so many different weapons you can choose from. And what amused the heck out of me, now that my Battle Cat wanted to jump up here, geez, he came with the shiniest 2000X sword. And the other day I was like looking at because I gave it to my battle armor He-Man. I'm like, where did I get that from? Oh yeah, Man at Arms came with that.
Man at
So
Arms
the
had
actual 2000X Snake Armor He-Man, his sword's dull looking. But then when you get the Man at Arms, you got the one where it's that you can make a beacon out of the thing if you hit with the light the right way. So it's like I agree with Adam completely. Like I love having the wornness to these because it tells a story.
Yeah,
it really
of
does
course.
give character and story. And like you look at maybe like, okay, here's a couple of pieces where maybe the armor has, like a slash in it or a little bit it's taken
Sure.
out, and you're like, what the hell did they do to get that part of the armor knocked out or whatever, and it's like that kind of stuff always appeals to me.
Yeah, like
as I've
Blade
gotten
had
older.
sculpted details too. Like in the original figure, like there was a lot of different sculpted details to his armor that were just, very unique to him that I like. Because again, in the movies, I've always been a fan of bladed weaponry. And it may go back to being a big fan of He-Man from the start. He had the sword, even though he never used it. I loved the just bladed weapons. That was like my big thing. And so like here's Blade, this Blade Master in the movie, and he's got like these swords on him, he's got like these daggers on him and stuff like that. And I love that they translated that into the toys. Like, like he had those. It kind of sucked that I couldn't use any of his knives or anything he had on him, but man, in my imagination he did. He was throwing knives and doing flips and sword fighting with everybody. But I will still say my favorite sword from the vintage toys was the Fisto Triclops sword. Like sculpting. There were times where I actually took that sword and gave it to He-Man instead of him having the regular power sword. Because, if you ever lost, I mean, I'm sure we all lost half of that power sword at least when we were kids. So, like, why does my main character have an incomplete sword? This looks dumb. Everybody else has got complete swords. So like, there were a lot of times where he did get Fisto's sword, but then I guess it was from that I always like the big giant looking swords, and that translated into like Final Fantasy VII when that game came out here in the US, and I was like, that is a huge, awesome looking sword that guy's got. And then I stumbled across the anime Berserk. If either of you guys are familiar, like, the main character Guts has this sword called the Dragon Slayer, and it's ginormous, bigger than, most men are. And so when I finally found out about classics and I was looking up Fisto and that 2000X version, now in 2000X, we didn't see a whole lot of Fisto. But in the toy, you kind of got the idea of his sword and how it looked. But then when it came to classics and you got his sword from the 2000X style with this massive blade with this fist counterweight at the bottom of it kind of thing, because it's the only way you can use a sword like that, like, it still holds true to this day. I think that's probably my favorite weapon within Masters of the Universe proper, is that massive Fisto sword from the classics. And I'm kind of hoping we may see that again if they do a Masterverse New Eternia Fisto. I'm kind of hoping we get that, because I would really like to have that style sword.
That would be cool. Yeah, I always thought like that's a cool sword. Like all of his weapons are cool, but I always felt like Fisto, because he's got this big blunt metal fist, like his weapon should be like in that spirit. So like either like a warhammer or something like a blunt weapon in his regular hand.
Oh,
There you go. There's the sword.
I knew I'd
Yep.
find it eventually.
Like this ginormous frigging sword totally sets it apart from Triclops' sword, by the way.
Yes.
Absolutely. But I love that this part is an homage to that.
Yes, like they kept that. They didn't just make it totally look like some anime style giant sword. They kept that little piece to it that definitely claims it as his, but I love that they put the counterweight on the bottom as a giant fist.
Yeah, me too.
Which I'm
But
sure Thanos Copter will find a way to use that as a prop in a picture later on.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
missing out if he doesn't. I can tell you that. No, I actually, I feel like there was somebody as a customizer that actually did the Warhammer idea, and I didn't have the money at that point to get it. But when I saw that, I'm like, why did they not do that? I completely agree with you, Adam. That was one of those. Either that or it was an axe. I think it's like either one. It's a blunt, not blunt, but I mean, an axe has a little bit more of like you're putting more force into it, and it's a lot more of like a you know, I don't know. It causes more damage, in my opinion. Than and it still had the fist involved, like at the end of it, which was cool too. So they were still keeping that piece of it, but they made this like big freaking battle axe for him, and I'm like, I kind of dig that because the axes really weren't represented in the line at certain points. You had the battle axe, but then once He-Man made once they did the cartoon, axes kind of just faded off at that point, and they just didn't really go there very much. So
yeah. And Fisto, he's kind of got a little bit of a Viking vibe. And Vikings more had their axes more than swords, I think, at least.
No, you definitely did. With Vikings is really funny. Like your axe was actually like your main weapon. A lot of people think like swords and stuff with the Vikings. They used axes more than anything else. However, what's really funny, Old Norse wood splitters looked like broadswords. They looked like an axe. Yeah, it was basically this giant blade. It wasn't as sharp as what we like to think of swords as. They were actually kind of dull. But it had this handle. And that is what they used to split wood, because you just let the whole weight of this massive blade come down and split your log. And then axes were what you fought with. Like that was your war tool. But it was multi-use because you did use it for other projects like hammering and such like that.
Here, I'm going to grab a couple things.
Ooh, show and tell time. It's always fun seeing Adam's collection. He's got some rare pieces and stuff.
Yeah, I'm still jealous of his Grayskull. I know everybody talks about that one.
Yours, but
every time I see his in photos, I'm always like, that's the one I signed up for when I first fell in love with this thing, and he's got the only one. So
he's got us all one up. He's no matter whatever else we get, he's got us one up, and we've got a good representation. We've got modern, modern classic. See what I did there?
Yep.
And then we've got vintage, like pre-vintage, even. Good representation we have.
I have to say though, Sean, I'm always jealous of your classics Grayskull too. When I see that, in fact, that's my my goal over in the next year is save up and get one of those again. So.
All right, well, there we go, folks. We need to find Adam a somehow affordable. I'm not even going to say reasonable, because reasonable is such a relative term, but an affordable classics Grayskull, folks.
I'd say if you're capable of finding one that's about $1,000 shipped, that's reasonable nowadays, which is nuts.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it got that much spending on toys.
Yeah. I mean, I figure I can do it. Like there's a few things I can sell, and then just, instead of buying something every month, just sock that away and then fetch it up. I can get it. So I was thinking, one thing we haven't talked about is some of the weird stuff from New Adventures. So we've got Flog's little fishing pole here, which is probably the merman. Yeah, catching the merman. And it's I know they did this poll so the action feature would work, so it would actually, when you do his his spring feature, it would actually whip, but it is kind of hilarious that it looks like just a fishing pole. one of the interesting power swords from that line is for what is it? Battle Punch He-Man.
Well, it wasn't Thunder Punch He-Man, but it was pretty close to that. It was like something
Yeah, I think it's what is it?
Power Fist He-Man, maybe it might have been.
Battle Blade. No, not
Battle.
Skeletor.
No,
Battle
no.
Punch He-Man. Oh, I was right. Battle
Battle
Punch
Punch,
He-Man.
okay.
It's the second He-Man variant in that line.
That was the
I
one
don't
that
know.
I had.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. I don't know. It's kind of clunky. They're all a little bit clunky, but it's got
Right.
kind of an interesting vibe.
I did
thought
that more than not in a weird way.
Yeah.
there was something about this sword that I liked a bit. Like, first off, I did enjoy the energy blade, the green energy blade, because it
Yeah.
reminded me of a Jedi's lightsaber, especially
Yeah.
Luke's from, Return of the Jedi, which was my favorite lightsaber because it was green. But there was something about that power sword. Now, I, to this day, do not understand why they went such a completely different direction with that sword. Like, you've got the power sword with the kind of energy blade that was with the original release. Like, that was how it looked. Then when we got the cartoon, it looked like the energy bladed one, except it had a metal blade in the cartoon. It just didn't have the energy blade.
Yep.
And neither looked like that second release He-Man sword. Like, it was so different.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a little bit charming. It looks like almost like a B movie studio doing a sci-fi movie would kind of come up with something like this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something about it. And then this is kind of one of my favorites too from Battle Blade Skeletor. This little thing that he tosses. It's just got his face on it, and he just kind of holds it in his hand and tosses it over.
Twist them around. Right. Again, it's a very neat weapon. It kind of always reminded me of like the disc that the Predator threw.
Or the other way around, it looks like a face hugger.
Right?
Oh yeah.
When he showed it from the bottom, it really looks like for now.
Hey, Skelly had that whole biomechanical thing. Very Geiger.
That's true. And then the other, this is the Masterverse version, but just the main Skeletor Havoc staff with just it kind of looks like a creature from the back too. It's got that vibe. It looks like some kind of something with a shell from the back, and then it's got the skull on the front. Just kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently that power sword was so that Trapjaw could give the bird. Now we have the answer, folks. Joe supplied us with the answer.
That's it.
So now, and then since again we're talking the weapons and stuff like that, did they ever explain the reason why the Havoc staff changed? Like, I get He-Man had to alter, but what was the reason for the Havoc staff changing?
Like an in-canon reason, I've never heard of like an explanation for that, and there wasn't a lot of. They explained why Skeletor was all biomechanical, but I think it was basically they redesigned it to one was to fit the aesthetic of the figure itself. It's got the skull motif, but it's got some technology to it. It looks like it's got some kind of it could shock you or something. But also the action feature he has, which is
that
fighting
kind of,
with it that way.
This thing.
So yeah, and it does seem, and it's got kind of on the other end, it's got like a bladed weapon.
It's got a blade. So, that I did like about the new Havoc staff was I like the idea that there's this blade at the one end kind of thing. I gotta say, like, I'm not a big fan of Revolution's look of the Techno Skeletor.
No.
When it comes to his hand being conjoined with the Havoc staff now, that kind of puts me off a little bit. But I would have really thought it would have been cool to see like some kind of like mechanized Havoc staff that actually like talked back to Skeletor or something like that, like when he was casting a spell or something, and like I don't know, like it gains some kind of semi-sentience when he gets infected with this technovirus, but I still think it's a good way to kind of bridge that techno-organic Skeletor moving forward into this new Revolutions. I thought that was pretty cool. I really dug it at the end of Revelation because, you know, we've got that version of Skeletor. We had it for New Adventures. They, you know, we've always had it with Laser Light Skeletor, where he's that biomechanical, is in the original mini comics. And
Yep. And here was the weapon that Laser Light Skeletor had.
Yep.
Translucent Havoc Staff.
Still one of the best accessories. Love those translucent plastics, even if they didn't hold up so well over the ages.
Yeah, and it didn't really transmit the light from his hand hardly at all, but it still looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Ace is asking, how much does everyone spend on average for a single weapon for your figures? I mean, it really depends on, first off, which weapon you're trying to buy per figure and where you're getting it from. You can get some decent stuff off of 3D prints with Etsy. That you can go anywhere from like $7 to $8. I think is about like the average on there for like your just single weapon kind of thing. And some people sell like packs for more and all like that. And depending on the quality of it too, because again, like somebody like Bujibu, he sells his stuff like significantly more, but that quality of work on there. And honestly, like if you ever, Kenzo's in the chat, Kenzo's Creations, and he prints off like some really good quality stuff. Giving you a big shout out there, Kenzo. I mean, if you wanted something and there's a file for it, you could probably ask him if he has it and see what he could do for you. But it also varies per line too, because like if you're looking for vintage He-Man weapons, like a repro will be kind of cheap, but like if you're looking for the actual vintage weapon, it's going to be kind of pricey. Classics is extremely expensive because those were a bit more rare with their more made to order kind of, you know, counts as far as the minimum order quantities, because those were smaller.
I know,
Origin
like
stuff, not too bad.
Barbarossa makes a lot. I think most of what he sells is repo weapons that you can use for vintage or Origins, or Masterverse or Classics. There's a lot of those. Sometimes if you look for classic stuff, like and you like on eBay and do like minimum, like lowest price to highest price, and then select all, like to show you everything. Sometimes there's still these Chinese sellers who still have like these extras from the factories. You know, maybe it was some factory worker. So you can get some of those fairly cheapish if you know what you're looking for.
For sure. I can definitely send you some links, Ace. On I'll hit you up on IG. I know I'll follow you there, so I'll throw them in there because I don't think I can put. I don't know how Skelly has it set up for links in his chat. But yeah, I could definitely go ahead and shoot you some links on IG. Again, Barbarossa Customs, Bujibu, two good ones. Hordak MX, he's another really good customizer right now. And again, these are things like, these are just like kind of like more Motu related too, but like you can find scaled weapons with a lot of different things, especially again, Sean and I are very big into the Mythic Legions community. There are so many phenomenal customizers and independent 3D prints, like where you can buy these accessories and you can put them with your other stuff. I mean, it'll mostly scale more towards like your Masterverse size, but some of them will work with Origins too if you're looking for some neat stuff. Mind you, it won't necessarily be entirely He-Man related, but you can find some cool weapons in there for a lot of stuff.
And I mean, classics for me was hit or miss. It depends what figure you're looking for the weapon for, typically, because the King He-Man sword, I want to say
Oh, that one's pricey for the King He-Man sword.
See, that wasn't that pricey when I found it, though. I want to say it
Really?
might have been $20.
How long
Oh.
ago was that?
That was a while ago, though. That was probably,
Yeah.
I'd say maybe 5-6 years back now. But, and that was the only one I found too. So it depends on if the seller knows what they have, and it depends on what you're looking for. Because the one thing I've been eyeing up on eBay in the last 2-3 weeks now, there is a fairly low price Skelcon figure, but he's incomplete. He's missing his dagger. So I keep searching for the dagger, and that's going to be the biggest needle in a haystack you'll ever find, because that's such a rare figure to even have somebody go, hey, I got the dagger for this very rare figure, but I don't have the figure. That'll be mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
So it's either do I pull the trigger on a figure that is incomplete and just leave it as is and just, okay, he just doesn't have his weapon, or do I keep looking and trying to find this dagger that I probably won't be able to find if I, in the next year or two, I'm guessing at the very least.
Right. So I was just looking up King He-Man's sword right now, just to see what it was going for, and I found it for $5.99. I was like, no way. I pulled it up, and it was for the minis, Masters Universe minis,
yeah.
so that totally made sense.
Yeah.
The only one that I can see right now on eBay for that King He-Man sword is $94.99.
Just for the sword?
That's American. Just for the sword.
That's ridiculous.
Well, the other one that it was definitely like I grabbed them because I found them, and I don't remember how much I paid, was the Castle Grayskull Man swords, because he's not a very, like, out of all the classics figures, he is more of a rarer one. And then on top of that, those being his weapons. But I want to say when I bought them, I might have paid somewhere between $30 to $40 for the set back. And again, it was around the same time as when I bought the King He-Man sword. So
right.
One thing I will say, because classics is still that line, and I'm still buying some in the last couple weeks. I'm actually rebuying ones that I had to let go. So tomorrow, a Skelcon's going to be showing up, and then the Snake Men 2-pack they made. I love those. I'm not a Snake Men guy, but I love those Snake Men figures for that, because they were just. It made me think of like Conan or something, the way they made those figures in particular. And
right.
There's certain ones like the set of the 2-pack I found for the Snake Men was $89 for the 2-pack, and it was complete. And I'm sitting there going, "What?" Like everybody else wants $150 to $200 for that thing, and here's somebody who wants it for literally $90. I bought it right then because I'm like, I'm never gonna find them both of them for that price to get both of them, And then, but again, it depends on the figure, because like He-Man, depending on what version you're looking at, could run you from 75 to 100 something, and then if you're looking for Skeletor, about the same thing. But then you have the thing of, okay, Scareglow, he's still around 175 to 200 ish. Fisto, same thing, and it's like some of those characters are still just retaining that astronomical value.
Yeah, some of them are they haven't budged. And I've noticed some others have gotten, you can get them a little cheaper depending on what it is. Like I got a Battle Armor Skeletor for pretty reasonable, like 60 recently. So
that's what I need to get again. Mine ended up doing a shelf dive, and that was not the armor did not help. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I'm like, I have Battle Armor He-Man up there, and I'm like, I really need the Battle Armor Skeletor again at some point, and he's going to be probably next month, the one I try to get. But I noticed that too. I've seen him for anywhere between he was like 69 to about 100 or so, depending if he's in box still.
And mine was in the box. So that's why I jumped on it, because it was unopened.
Yeah, there's a lot of these where I mean, I know at least us here, we're not like diehard mint on card collectors. So for us, it gets a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, for
Somewhat.
sure.
You
But
know,
my
we're
OCD
fine
still
getting
kicks
the
in.
open figure. It does because it's like I want it to be complete. I'm not. I know Bobby. He's more of the stickler of it's got to be vintage. Like it can't be a repro or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with repro as long as it truly fits the aesthetic. But I understand people who don't like that. They want the full original too, and that's completely fine. But again, that's just something that does make it a little bit easier for me when I'm shopping around because it's like, yeah, I'm okay with that repro part. I'm okay with it not being fully original as long as it feels complete to me.
Yeah. I've used
You know,
even like some Origins parts just to complete my vintage figures. Like for
yeah,
Tongue Lasher, I did that. Squeeze, I did that. So
yeah, because they're like, again, Squeeze's rifle. It's pretty much the same exact thing as the vintage. So like
yeah,
that helps.
yeah. I was gonna this is a one where I've combined Origins and Classics. So she's got the Goddess spear from Classics, which it would be too. It's really too big for her, but I've clipped the bottom of it so it's not quite so long. So for this mini comic Tila, she's got the correct spear going.
That is good. Yeah. And again, I wished like we had gotten maybe that spear. Like, okay, so let's face it, right? Like the Zor Tila 2-pack, they gave us a sword. I'm happy about that. I wish we had gotten the spear instead of giving us the staff of Ka again. Like I could have done with the spear instead, like a different loadout kind of thing. Especially since we already had it. The original figure, we got it with the Green Goddess, then we got it with that. Now we've got it again with Snake Tila. I mean, I get it. They're getting their use out of that, but there was also other weapons she could come with. Like he introduced the sword. Why not go for the spear? Do a battlegrounds Tila.
Or that axe that we saw in that mini comic draft. Yeah.
Heck, they don't even have to do much. All they got to do is give her He-Man's axe that he came with.
Pretty much. Yeah. In the comics, she had like a gold He-Man axe, basically.
Yeah, and it looks like the one that came with the Origins He-Man. Doesn't look like the one that came with the vintage He-Man. It looks like the one that came with the new Origins look. And in that respect, give us our damn original axe for He-Man. like put that out there, guys.
Yeah.
Come on, give us that. We know you can make it. You put it with Masterverse. Now shrink it down, downscale it, and give it to us.
It's so funny because like the first figures they did were that Prince Adam and He-Man, sort of mini comic Alcala, yeah. But then everything else just about has been based on the toy, except for He-Man. He retains the mini comic boots, the mini comic axe, and the shield. Nothing. It's never been updated to the vintage style or vintage toy style.
So for anybody who's wondering about Skelly still being up, no, that was because on StreamYard, since we're doing it from Skelly's channel, I typed that in and it comes up under Skelly's name because it's on StreamYard under his channel. So no, Skelly's not still up. We all know he's an old man. He falls asleep. Now it's funny that he went to bed so early, like even earlier than usual here on like the East Coast, because he like Skelly is the only person I know when I wake up on the West. Like when I wake up here on the East Coast and I'm getting ready for work, Skelly is up on the West Coast. Now there's a 3-hour difference there, and I'm getting up at like 6 a.m. I'm like, why is Skelly up?
Because he's grandpa. He had to get up and go to the bathroom, and then he couldn't fall back to sleep.
That's what it is. It's the bathroom in the middle of the night.
Which actually happens to me now, so it's okay.
He had some books to go take back to the library so he can get his morning cup of coffee. And it's just a Starbucks he's stealing books out of.
Pappy Skelly walking around. Starbucks. He's like scratching himself while he's waking up and trying to get out.
Oh my god.
Hit the bathroom.
But we love him. Absolutely love him, though. He is the man that helped start this whole endeavor that has brought us all together and doing this amazing fun chats and shows. So I know earlier we had talked about how okay, so with all things being said, with the different weapons of attorney and all like that, we had mentioned about the crossbows earlier, right? Now, like, you look at the Horde's crossbows, I have no idea what they're supposed to shoot or how they shoot them. Because, I mean, again, it was mostly toys. We never actually saw them in practice in any of the media. But there is kind of a lack of bows within. And now, mind you, there's not much you could do with different bows. But, I mean, Bow from She-Ra had a long bow, and Ninjor had a long bow. And that's it, really. Like, we didn't see many more characters with those. Now Slamurai has one, but again, that was a later kind of release figure, just doing a white repaint of Ninjor. I think I would have liked to see more archers, and not necessarily like we all know Shirella. That stereotype of the female with the bow thing and all like that. Like, I'd much rather see the females with the badass battle axe. But hey, can we get a Shirella so that we get a archer character? I'll take it. I want to see it. And honestly, like, again, since they're still going gaga over the Snake Men a little bit, I think it's kind of winding down with that now, though. I don't know how much more Snake Men stuff will really get moving too much further than what we've already got. But I'd like to see Quick Flick. I think that would be really good.
Is he the long neck concept guy?
No, Quick Flick. Technically, he's got kind of a longer neck than most of the Snake Men, but you're thinking of stretch neck.
Oh, he's stretch neck. Okay.
Quick Flick was the again, the idea of a Snake Men archer that was a brief concept, but never put into production past a concept stage.
Right.
And that was more, whereas Axel and Menez was like the more of the mind behind most of those concept Snake Men. That one was more Scott Knightlick, from what I remember, was like he wanted to see this. But I always thought it was cool because then you get like the poison arrows kind of thing.
Sure.
I don't know. I'd just like to have some more archers because I always thought archery is a badass skill. So
yeah, there were a few like I know was it Ted Mayer did some kind of traditional fantasy looking archer concepts. I think in the original Powers of Grayskull, like the drafts, one of the drafts had talked about somebody having some kind of crossbow or something in that crew they were going to have. But again, that the original concept for that was very Lord of the Rings. Like, it was the way it was described. It sounded like straight out of Tolkien.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. A lot of those. Guys, it's getting to be about that time where we normally start wrapping this thing up. So I know we talked about our favorites of the weapons. Well, Adam, what is exactly your favorite weapon?
Yeah, this is something I thought about the other day. I was like, what is my favorite weapon? I don't know. It's probably going to be He-Man's axe. That's, I don't know. For whatever reason, I always fixated on that. When I was a kid, I didn't have like necessarily a preference, sword or axe, except for the sword was a half sword and him holding it without it looking weird. Yeah, right. It's a little awkward
because it was a half sword.
So I gravitated to the sword and the shield. Or I can't talk. The axe. And the axe is really one of the more detailed weapons, and probably because it was the softer, flexible plastic that you would hold those details. But just the ridges and the details along the blades. It's a pretty cool weapon. It's probably my favorite.
Right. Well, I think probably one of the best weapons ever, and this again calls back to the classics line, goes back to what Sean is saying, and it packs the holiday heat. The candy cane sword of power.
There you go.
I think that really just rounds it all out, brings it all together. Because you're not going to go marching up to some big buff barbarian looking dude with a candy cane sword. Because think of how long he had to whittle down that candy cane until it was just that power sword.
He has the power. He can do it.
Oh, he's got the power. He's got the time and the power. And Ace saying the original Havoc staff is my favorite. I gotta say that the Havoc staff always called to me too as a kid. I don't know if it was because it was this ram skull on top of the staff or what, but that was just a very unique weapon to me. I really enjoyed the Havoc staff. I thought it was cool.
Yeah,
but like I said, I would have liked that redesign with like a blade at the bottom of it. Like what the New Adventures had. And I guess we did kind of get that too in Revelations, where like he transformed the bottom of it to have a blade on it, and that kind of was a neat idea where he could just change it himself.
Yeah, and I didn't show this, but a lot of people have also seen the B sheet for Skeletor, and that was the head of that Havoc staff was supposed to attach with a string, and it would come off.
Yeah,
Which that makes more sense in Man at Arms. I don't know about the Havoc staff being like a blunt weapon. I think it's more of a magical weapon, really. But that's what it's going to do.
True story, yeah. And like I kind of liked the idea of the mace kind of idea for Man at Arms. Like I always enjoyed that. But it's there he's back. Okay. Popped out for a second back. We got you, brother. We got you. Hey, you know what? Yeah.
That's true.
It's
going to sting.
Brimley
too.
running. Yeah.
Peppermint in the wound. I don't know. That probably wouldn't feel good.
It's not a good call. Not a good call. Wilford Brimley went running for his diabetes testing supplies just to battle back.
Diabetes.
Gotta have the beatus. The theme song for this time of the year, from Halloween through freaking December, is just diabetes. All right, guys. Well, kind of tying it together there with that full holiday heat at the end there. But well, I guess what do we got coming up this weekend, guys? Sean, what do you got?
We're doing Off-World tomorrow night, so 9:00. We're going to talk about our top 5 favorite Christmas movies. And the Have You Ever this time is the movie Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds and Amy Smart. I rewatched that movie the other night. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot how much Amy Smart is adorable. So that was like a Christmas present in and of itself, to remind myself that Amy Smart is worth looking at again. That made me happy.
There you go.
So yeah, there's that. Other than that, that's about it. My weekend will be wall-to-wall work after that.
Nice. Adam, what you got coming up on the blog?
So up next, actually, I'll put this out tomorrow. Turbodactyl, an article about Turbodactyl. And then after, I don't know, I've got to write something else. I'm not sure what I'm going to do after that. But for just around the house, we'll be putting up the Christmas tree, getting some decorations set up. Should be good.
All right. Well, so this week I don't have much planned going through the weekend. You can definitely, you'll see me, of course, somewhere on ToyTube this weekend. I know I've showed off a little bit here tonight, but I've still got something else kind of